Which rights allow Canadians to live and work anywhere in Canada and apply for a passport? Mobility rights. Mobility rights, as enshrined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, allow citizens to live and work anywhere in Canada and to apply for a passport. These rights ensure Canadians can move freely within their country and travel internationally. Why not the others? Equality rights. These rights ensure that every individual is treated equally under the law and has equal protection and benefit of the law, without discrimination. Legal rights. These protect individuals' rights when dealing with law enforcement and the justice system, such as the right to a fair trial and protection against unreasonable search and seizure. Property rights. While important, these rights primarily concern the ability to acquire, use, and dispose of property, and are not directly related to the ability to live and work anywhere in Canada or apply for a passport. Quebec is Canada's largest producer of what type of electricity? Hydroelectricity. Quebec's abundant freshwater resources have led to its dominance in hydroelectricity production in Canada. Hydroelectricity is generated by harnessing the power of moving water, making it a natural fit for Quebec's geography. Why not the others? Solar electricity. Quebec is not a major producer of solar electricity. Nuclear electricity. While Quebec does have nuclear power plants, it is not the largest producer. Wind electricity. Quebec is not the largest producer of wind electricity in Canada. Which trio correctly matches lawmaking, dispute settlement, and enforcement? Elected representatives, courts, police. Elected representatives are responsible for lawmaking, courts are responsible for dispute settlement, and the police are responsible for enforcement. Why not the others? Courts, police, elected representatives. This is incorrect because the courts deal with dispute settlement, police are responsible for enforcement, and elected representatives are responsible for lawmaking. Police, elected representatives, courts. This is incorrect because the police are responsible for enforcement, elected representatives are responsible for lawmaking, and the courts deal with dispute settlement. Elected representatives, police, courts. This is incorrect because elected representatives are responsible for lawmaking, police are responsible for enforcement, and the courts deal with dispute settlement. Who invented the snowmobile? Joseph Armand Bombardier. Joseph Armand Bombardier invented the snowmobile. He was a Canadian inventor and businessman who founded Bombardier Incorporated. Why not the others? Alexander Graham Bell. He is known for inventing the telephone, not the snowmobile. Sir Sandford A. Fleming. He was a Scottish-born Canadian engineer and inventor, who is best known for inventing the worldwide system of standard time zones. Matthew James Evans. He is a Canadian inventor who, along with Henry Woodward, patented an early version of the incandescent light bulb. Which of the following best restates the definition of due process? Government must respect a person's legal rights. Due process ensures that the government respects a person's legal rights. This means the government cannot act unfairly or arbitrarily against its citizens. It must follow established legal procedures and principles. Why not the others? A requirement of a speedy trial only. Due process is broader than just a speedy trial, it includes various legal rights. That laws are always made fairly. Due process refers to the application of laws, not necessarily how they are made. Protections limited to police procedures only. Due process applies to all government actions, not just police procedures. Who represents the sovereign federally in Canada? Governor-General. The Governor-General represents the sovereign, the head of state, at the federal level in Canada's constitutional monarchy. The Governor-General is appointed by the sovereign on the advice of the Prime Minister. Why not the others? The Prime Minister is the head of government, not the sovereign's representative. Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor represents the sovereign in each of the 10 provinces, not at the federal level. Territorial Commissioner. The Commissioner represents the federal government in the 3 territories, not the sovereign. Which statement best captures the presumption of innocence in criminal law? An accused is innocent until proven guilty. The presumption of innocence is a core principle of criminal law. It means that everyone accused of a crime is considered innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Why not the others? An accused is presumed guilty until proven innocent. This is the opposite of the presumption of innocence. The presumption applies only in civil cases. The presumption of innocence primarily applies in criminal law, not civil law. The presumption applies only to minor offenses. The presumption of innocence applies to all criminal offenses, not just minor ones. Which court is Canada's final court of appeal? Supreme Court of Canada. The Supreme Court of Canada is the highest court in the country and serves as the final court of appeal for both federal and provincial matters. Why not the others? Federal Court of Canada. This court deals with matters concerning the federal government, not as the final court of appeal. Court of King's Bench. This is a trial court in some provinces, not the final court of appeal. Provincial Small Claims Court. This court handles civil cases involving small sums of money and is not a final court of appeal. Who invented basketball in 1891? James Naismith. James Naismith invented basketball in 1891. He was a Canadian physical education instructor. Why not the others? Donovan Bailey. Donovan Bailey is a former Canadian sprinter, known for his accomplishments in track and field, not basketball. Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky is a famous ice hockey player, and is not associated with the invention of basketball. Terry Fox. Terry Fox was a Canadian athlete and cancer research activist, but he did not invent basketball. What does Canada's constitutional monarchy mean? Parliamentary democracy with monarch. Canada is a constitutional monarchy, meaning it has a monarch as head of state but operates as a parliamentary democracy. The elected officials make the laws and govern. Why not the others? Republican presidential system. Canada does not have a president, it has a monarch and prime minister. Direct democracy without representatives. Canada uses representatives to make decisions. It is not a direct democracy. Religious theocracy led by monarch. Canada is secular, not religious, and the monarch's power is limited by the Constitution. Which level of government primarily handles national defense? Federal government. The federal government is responsible for national defense, as outlined in the standard constitutional division of powers. Why not the others? Provincial government. Provincial governments are responsible for areas like education and healthcare, not national defense. Municipal government. Municipal governments handle local services such as firefighting and snow removal. Shared federal-provincial role. Although some areas like immigration and agriculture are shared, national defense is not one of them. Which two languages are Canada's official languages? English and French. Canada has two official languages, English and French. These languages reflect the country's historical and cultural heritage. Why not the others? English and Spanish. Spanish is not an official language of Canada. French and Indigenous. While Indigenous languages are important to Canada's heritage, they are not official languages at the federal level. English and German. German is not one of Canada's official languages. Which national police force enforces federal laws across most provinces? Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, are Canada's national police force and enforce federal laws across most provinces and territories, except Ontario and Quebec, where provincial police forces operate. Why not the others? Ontario Provincial Police. The Ontario Provincial Police is a provincial police force, not a national one. Municipal police departments. Municipal police departments operate within cities and towns, not nationally. Canadian Armed Forces. The Canadian Armed Forces are responsible for national defense, not civil law enforcement. Which Viking settlement in Newfoundland is a World Heritage Site? L'Anse aux Meadows. L'Anse aux Meadows, located in Newfoundland, is the remains of a Viking settlement and is recognized as a World Heritage Site. Why not the others? Port Royal, Nova Scotia. This was an early French settlement, not a Viking settlement. Fort Garry, Manitoba. This was a Hudson's Bay Company trading post, not a Viking settlement. Fort Langley, British Columbia. This was also a Hudson's Bay Company trading post, not a Viking settlement. Who serves as head of state? The King or Queen. The King or Queen of Canada serves as the head of state in Canada's constitutional monarchy because of Canada's historical ties to the British monarchy and the establishment of the Canadian government under the British North America Act of 1867. This act, now known as the Constitution Act, established Canada as a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system of government. Which stage of the legislative process examines a bill clause by clause? Committee. The committee stage is where a bill is examined clause by clause, with members proposing amendments. This allows for detailed scrutiny and modifications to the bill. Why not the others? First reading. This is the initial stage where the bill is introduced to the legislature. Report stage. This is where the committee presents its report on the bill to the legislature. Royal assent. This is the final stage where the bill is signed into law. Which activity is described as a legal responsibility of Canadian citizens? Serving on a jury when called. Serving on a jury is a legal duty for Canadian citizens when they are called to do so. It ensures the justice system functions properly with impartial juries. Why not the others? Volunteering at a charity. Volunteering is a way to help the community but is not a legal responsibility. Compulsory military conscription. Canada does not have compulsory military service. Joining the military is voluntary. Mandatory religious attendance. Canada does not have mandatory religious attendance, as it is a secular country that values freedom of religion. Which institution primarily settles disputes between parties in Canadian society? Canadian courts. Canadian courts, including the Supreme Court, Federal Court, and provincial courts, are established to resolve disputes and administer justice in accordance with the law. These courts handle various types of cases, ensuring a fair resolution process. Why not the others? Police services. Police primarily enforce laws and maintain order, rather than settling disputes between parties. Legislatures. Legislatures create laws, but they do not settle individual disputes. Private lawyers. Private lawyers provide legal representation and advice, but they do not have the authority to settle disputes. That is the role of the courts. Who hit on the idea of the telephone at his summer house in Canada? Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone and first came up with the idea at his summer house in Canada. His work revolutionized communication worldwide and remains one of the most significant Canadian-linked innovations. Why not the others? Joseph Armand Bombardier. Known for inventing the snowmobile, not the telephone. Matthew Evans. Credited with co-inventing an early version of the light bulb, not the telephone. Sir Sandford Fleming. Famous for proposing worldwide standard time zones, not for inventing the telephone. Which sector and resources chiefly characterize Saskatchewan? Grains and oilseeds, uranium, potash. Saskatchewan is characterized by its production of grains and oilseeds in the agriculture sector and its resources of uranium and potash in the mining sector. Why not the others? Oil sands and petroleum. This characterizes Alberta, not Saskatchewan. Hydroelectric power and metal mining. This is more characteristic of Quebec. Small-scale mixed farming only. Saskatchewan's agriculture includes large-scale grain and oilseed production, not just small-scale mixed farming.